Today, this is what we're gonna make. As a music producer who produces a lot of different genres for a lot of different artists, I have to learn quite quickly a lot of different techniques and a lot of different things that make a certain genre sound like a certain genre. And of course, nowadays techno is a really big genre, so I also have to learn how to make these techno kicks, which is one of the most important things in techno music. Thankfully, there are a lot of tutorials online on how to make those. The only issue that I ran into when following these tutorials is when you want to tune these kicks. It's always, at least for me personally, quite difficult to hear where these rumbly kicks are in terms of the tone. For instance, if an artist has a cool track in G and they want a solid techno kick, I need to be able to make a techno kick rumbly and also work in G. So let me show you how I go about this. Like with many things in music, of course, I want to preface that this is not the only way to do it. It's just my way of doing it. This is a project that I use to make these techno kicks. And what you can see here, we got a punch, a sub, a kick roll, a hat, dirt, some reverbs, which are the usual ingredients for a techno kick. Now, usually how you would make a traditional rumble kick is you would have the reverbs playing the low end of the kick, and then you get something like this. So if I also take away the roll and the hi-hats, which we can cover later on. In this case, I separated the reverbs, so I have a low frequency reverb and a mid frequency reverb. It's just a simple Ableton reverb, so nothing really that crazy. If you would start the creation of a track with a kick drum, then this would be a great starting point. However, I usually come into a project when the artist already has made a demo or like a 50% done track or even sometimes a 75% done track, which already has a certain key. So I need to figure out like how can I make also pretty quickly, because that's the thing when you work for other people. They rather want something done yesterday. So I have to be as quick as possible and get an awesome result for the client. So what I started doing is, instead of having the reverb bringing in the low frequency information, I start with using the old big room trick. It's basically having a sub, in this case a sub in F, and make that be my low end information. You can hear already this got a really cool punch and really cool drive. So then of course if I would layer the reverb with that, it would be way too much in the low end. As you can hear, that's not good. Let's first show you what I do with the low end. I take away the low end and also the high end. Usually there's no high end going on, but I'll show you later on why I remove the high end, because you can already see here there's some distortion and saturation going on. Now, of course, what you're gonna hear is that there's not much rumbling anymore. Adding some distortion. Then adding some saturation. So if you want to replicate it, you can. If I would not do a high cut, way too high in frequency. Okay, we got now a really cool distorted reverb layer, but then I felt like it needs to get some rhythm. So what I then add is I add a trans gate. Cool starting point for a techno kick, which has like a drive, a rumble, and also is in the right key that I want. Now the cool thing with this technique is that I can just switch out different input signals for the punch while still having a consistent low end and rumble. So let's see, we take this one. And then of course you can tweak it to taste, how long you want it. But for now, let's go back to the one we had, because I quite like that punch. And then to give it even more of a roll, you can have that same kick drum and just have it as a sort of a Psy 16th rhythm. With some distortion, with some OTT, and then just take away the low end a little bit so it's not that much conflicting, and also a little bit of the high end. And then the icing on the cake is have a hi-hat loop. I learned this from a really great tutorial from Techno. They make awesome stuff. Really like what they did with this idea. Just have a techno loop and then just play around with the EQing. So on its own it's a... But this way, you got a really consistent kick drum, which I think is really cool. Let's say I want a different sub. Pretty cool, I'd say. Now, one thing I wanted to give you as a tip as well. I got a main group where everything is routed to, and I got a few things that I'm doing here. One thing is a reverb, which I do just at the end to give some flow to it. And then at the end I also do some saturation with Ableton Saturator, because without it still decent, still punchy, but with it everything becomes much more in your face. And you can play around with different ones and just tune it to taste. Now, one thing to notice if you're using, like me, the Ableton Reverb, I'm not totally sure why, but it needs to ramp up a little bit. For instance, if you hear it when I start playing it, you will hear like after like 5 or 6 repetitions, the kick will sound full. I think that's because the reverb needs to react to what's coming in. So that's why I bounce it. And as you can see here in this bounce channel, I did quite a bit of different iterations on this technique. They're all made using the same layers that I showed you before, so a really great way to create some really cool kicks. I hope this will help you understand and demystify a little bit more the techno kicks, and especially the tuned techno kicks. It's, in my opinion, a really cool kick to make. It's quite hard at the beginning because there's so much different things that need to work together. But once you understand a little bit better the workflow, I think you can make some really cool stuff with it. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you like what I do, hit the like button. If you haven't already, subscribe, and I see you all on the next video. Take care. Bye-bye.